Hey friend, welcome to Self-Transformed, a podcast redefining self-care through simple fitness, nutrition, and mindset habits. I'm your host, Emily Nichols, certified personal trainer, Whole30 coach, and Taco Tuesday enthusiast. Hey, I know the struggle is real when it comes to taking care of you. I too am a busy working mom who felt physically and emotionally drained until I took action on my own transformation journey. I finally found the solutions to feeling confident and living a healthy lifestyle that doesn't feel hard, and now I'm on a mission to equip you with sustainable tools to help transform your life from the inside out, guilt-free. Together, we will simplify your health and fitness into daily habits that don't feel like another thing on your long to-do list, but daily actions that light you up instead. So if you're ready to redefine self-care and step into your own self-transformation, then let's do this. You're listening to episode 114 of Self-Transformed. Hey friend, welcome back to the show. I am coming off of a trip to Cancun with some of my besties and our husbands, and I tell you what, fun in the sun is good for the soul. But I'm so glad to be back here with you, be back with my boys and our dogs, and back to providing you inspiration every single week. You know, STU Live is going on right now, and if you don't know what that program is, it's my live 6-week group coaching program where I help women transform the way they see self-care, and we do that through simple fitness, nutrition, and mindset habits. Habits being the key word on top of everything, that secret sauce, if you will. And we're going into week 4, or maybe it's 5, week 4 or 5. See, I have vacation brain right now. And I'm just so excited about the momentum they have and them doing action every week, taking action in regards to their own transformation. And that's a big focus of what we're going to be talking about today on this show, is actually some simple tools to help you take action for lasting habit change and transformation. Before we get into today's episode though, if you want to have a taste of what Self-Transform You is all about, but maybe you don't want to do it in a group coaching program, you can go to selftransformu, the letter U.com, to learn more about STU, the course. This is the same program that the girls doing the live group coaching program are doing, but there is the opportunity to do it on your own self-paced with me as your virtual coach, and there's some options to have some one-on-one coaching in there with me as well if you need that added accountability. So again, you can go to selftransformu.com, and always feel free to come join us in the podcast community in our Facebook group at bit.ly/selftransformedfan, where we continue the conversation over there each week from the show. And of course, I have my monthly free mini workshops over there. They are also the first to find out about new things coming. And as I'm mapping out the rest of this calendar year, oh my gosh, where did 2021 go? There's some really exciting opportunities coming up for you all that I can't wait to share with you to help you elevate your life and help you take action. So let's get into today's episode. Y'all, I am so honored, absolutely honored to have Danika Brysha on my show today. When I started this show 2 years ago, Danika was one of the first people I wrote down when I was doing like a massive brain dump of people I would love to have on my show. And she was one of the first names that I wrote down because I feel really inspired by her. I don't know if she knows this or not, but she's kind of served as a virtual mentor for me from afar, just on social media. She did the videos she's posted and just the way she views self-care and how she has built her brand and business around serving others and helping them guide them back to who they really are and helping them within their own transformation from a lens of self-care. She's really served as a mentor for me, and I don't know if she knows that or not, but Danika, thank you so much, so much. So let me tell you a little bit about Danika Brysha and what we're going to be talking about today. So Danika is a 3-time wellness entrepreneur, bodied positive fashion model signed with IMG Models, and she's a self-care and lifestyle design coach. So she leads her three companies, the Self-Care Society, Model Meals, and Danika Brysha Inc., and she models for brands like Bare Minerals, Old Navy, and Land's End. She guides others to help them find wellness routines that are the foundation for the life they dream of. Okay, and Danika has founded this based on her own experience and her own story, which she'll share with us today on the show. She's worked with thousands of people to spread wellness and cultivate self-care routines and systems that stick. And she's super passionate about empowering others to come back home to themselves. Through her journey of recovery from disordered eating, food addiction and body issues, excessive alcohol and drug use, deep debt, and an overall lack of confidence and purpose, Danika now uses her own experience to help others transform and thrive. And I feel like that's the best type of person to help you, is maybe someone who's been in your shoes, someone that has had their own transformation. Like I said, Danika will share that transformation story with you. And Danika and I have a lot of parallels to our story, where she is a Whole30 certified coach like me as well. She did her first Whole30 back in 2014. I did my first one back in 2015. And as I've talked about on the show so many times, that snowballed into so many other areas of my life and really cultivated my own self-care routine that I didn't know I was lacking and craved and needed so much in my life. And Danika shares a little bit about how the Whole30 has done that for her as well. But today I really want you to have a pen and paper handy and really open up your mind today to listen to these simple tools for your own sense of accountability, for your own self-care, thinking about bonus info as well for you today on the Whole30 and how it can help clarify not only your body, but your mind. So we talk all things habit change, self-care, Whole30, and just being kind and graceful to yourself, which I think we can all do. So sit back and relax. Listen to this episode with my friend Danika Brysha. Make sure to stick around to the end. You know I'll be sharing my 3 biggest takeaways to help you take action. Let's dig in. All right, gang. Thank you so much again for tuning in to Self Transformed. I'm so excited and honored to have Danika Brysha on the show. Danika, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to dig into this conversation. And I have to tell you a little backstory. So you have been on like my bucket list of people to have on the show. Like I've had the podcast for 2 years now. And when I was writing out people I'd like to have on the show, you were one of the first names I wrote down. And here you are. I love it when things like that come around.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to chat with you. And it's so awesome to see how this has taken form over the years. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's dig into today's conversation. So Danika, the first question I ask every guest is, what comes to mind when you hear the phrase self-transformed?
Yeah, I love this. So for me, obviously I think of my own journey, and I think I was writing my values for this program I'm doing this morning. It's like a financial program, but one of the values that was like very clear for me was just growth and expansion. And I think that that's one of the most exciting parts about being a human, is that we have the opportunity and the potential to continually transform. And for me, transformation is related to living authentically and intuitively. And I think that that's different for everyone at different periods of their life. And so I think self-transformation is something that is always going to be evolving. It's always going to be part of our lives. But I think it's if to sum it up, if I were to try and like articulate it quickly, would be to just be continually transforming into the most authentic version of ourselves.
Yeah. And like you said, it comes from a place of intuition and authenticity. And sometimes it's hard to be quiet and hear that inner voice telling us like, oh, it's time to pivot. It's time to shift. And sometimes change can be scary, but also most of the time it's beautiful in the end, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, we have our vulnerabilities and our weaknesses and our fragilities for a reason. I think they're really positive, but it takes some time to realize that that's the case and to be willing to step into that. But I really do think that journey is one of the most exciting ones that we get to go on. And the more that we are willing to dig into who we are and how we want to show up into the world, the better and better life gets.
Amen to that. I love that. Well, Danika, can you share maybe just your own little transformation story, kind of what led you to who you are today, what you do today? And I know that's kind of a loaded question, but what is your transformation story?
Yeah, I'll try and give you like the Cliffs notes of it. So I'll tell you what I am doing today, and then we'll kind of reverse how I got here. So currently, I own three businesses. I own a meal delivery company called Model Meals. We were recently acquired, so we're working in partnership with a larger company now, which is really exciting, and we're expanding nationally. And this company, this meal prep company, is like Whole30, paleo, really, regenerative agriculture, really mindfully, humanely sourced food. I'm really passionate about the role that food plays in our life, in our experience. And that stemmed from my first time doing Whole30 in 2014, and kind of went on to become a coach and all those things. So that's Whole30. And then I have a company called Self-Care Society, which for me was really bridging the gap between knowing what benefits us for self-care and actually doing it. Because I worked with so many people over so many years around self-care systems and strategies. And I have something called the self-care checklist I created, which we can talk about later. But, I realized that people had the tools, they just didn't have the integration. And I kept seeing that, we're in this culture where we have access to all this information, which is so wonderful. But if we have a ton of information and we don't have systems to actually implement it into our life, then, we get kind of stuck, right? And we feel almost more shameful than when we started, and it doesn't actually benefit us. So we wanted to create a platform. It's kind of like a fitness membership, but one for your mindset, for your mental, emotional health, with like live classes and all that. So those are the two companies I'm running right now. I also have a third called Danika Brysha Inc, which is, kind of anything I do with me as personal brand, Whole30 coaching, as well as plus size modeling. So I've been modeling in the curvy sort of space of the modeling industry for the last, I think, over 10 years now. So I model for brands like Target and Bare Minerals and, Land's End and all that. And then sort of reversing, because it's easy to kind of be in this place now and say, okay, these are all the things that are going on. Sort of reversing down this path is like, I grew up with a really poor relationship around food and body, struggled severely with bulimia and disordered eating, binge eating disorder, food addictions, and just like really poor body image. I was always a bigger girl, so I really struggled with that. And it led me into, not just disordered eating, but drug use and alcohol abuse and all of that. And so that was a big part of my journey and my identity. I think I showed up in life really trying to be what I thought people wanted me to be versus who I actually was, which brings me back to this conversation around self-transformed, right? It's like finding who you actually are and being confident in that in the world versus how you think you should show up. And so this journey sort of this journey of sort of trying to learn how to find peace with food and body and all that led me into the plus size modeling industry, which was really healthy for me. Actually, it helped me realize that there was a place for me exactly as I was, as a 5'10" woman who was a size 14. I didn't have to lose weight to be a model, which was a dream of mine. And so I got into modeling and then moved to New York City. And then I did my first Whole30, which got me really into just the power of food and what we put into our bodies. I mean, I grew up like many of us on processed foods and fast food and all of that, and sugar and artificial junk. And it really affects your brain and your mind. And if our brain is really foggy and it's not functioning, then it becomes really challenging to do this self-transformed work, right? Like to go deeper, to listen to the whispers, to gain clarity on what's going on within you is really challenging when your physical vessel is not working as it's meant to. And so that's why I'm such a big believer in Whole30, because it's so much more than food. And so I sort of, took my experience with Whole30 and thought, well, how can I make it easier for people to eat this way? Which is how my meal delivery company came about, Model Meals. And I started cooking and delivering meals when I was living in New York. Well, there was a period, as any new entrepreneur would experience, where I totally went deep into debt. I was like 6 figures in debt. I hadn't paid my rent on my apartment in New York for 3 months. I had like a pink slip on my door that was basically like, you need to pay or leave. And I moved back into my parents, with my parents in their garage for a period of 2 years where I built model meals and sort of regrouped and got myself to a better spot. And then kind of have grown that over the last few years while still modeling. And eventually COVID came and that changed the landscape for a lot of the work that I do, but it also gave me the opportunity to follow this inkling of something that was needed, the solution that I wasn't seeing. And I had gone on a national tour in 2018. My partner and I, he's a chef, and we went on a tour. We did 66 events all over the country for self-care and working with women. And so a lot of the challenges I saw those women struggle with, we took and we put into building self-care society. So that's really a lot of where I spend my time nowadays. And I live here in Las Vegas with my partner and our dogs, and I'm into organic gardening and like just trying to slow down life. I think the hustle culture was so prominent for so long and probably shows in, these things that I'm saying that I'm doing, but I'm really trying to reverse out of that right now and slow down and find spaciousness. And I just realized as I get older that the moments, like the big moments in life, are all these little moments. It's like the early sunrises, and it's gardening, and it's being home, and it's just like all those little moments. So that's it, Emily. That's the story, which probably wasn't very Cliff's Notes esque, but I did my best.
No, it was great. Epic transformation. And I'm sure everyone has seen you, because I keep seeing you jogging on by in that Target commercial, just smiling. I'm like, that girl, go Danika.
Thank you. That was fun.
So great. It's so great. But yeah, well, let's kind of break down a little bit about what you're doing now, because I come from a world where I really feel like self-care is so important, but I feel like it kind of gets a bad rap. It's a very buzzworthy word, and it's so much more than bubble baths and manicures. It's really the hard things you're doing every day to take care of yourself from the inside out. And that's the whole point of the show too, is to really redefine what self-care means for each listener. So I'd love for you to break down your self-care checklist a little bit more and how you created that, because I feel like the women listening to the show today could really learn from that.
Yeah. So the self-care checklist came about. When I was living in my parents' garage, I was eating well. Like, I think I had changed what I was eating, but I hadn't really looked much into how and why I was eating. So I was really struggling with binge eating disorder. And I'm talking like I would eat 10,000 calories in 20 minutes. And it could even be like 10,000 calories of almonds and grapes and, quote unquote, healthy stuff. And I realized, oh, wow, there's more to this. It's not just about the what, it's about the how and the why. And I had been in sort of different therapies and Overeaters Anonymous and programs as well, working on this for myself. But one of the things that I realized was, I remember asking myself, and I was kind of like so defeated. I was in debt. I'm living in my parents' garage at almost 30 years old. And I sort of just kind of like fell to the ground and prayed. And that wasn't something that was like a normal part of my life at that point. And I just asked, it was like, how do I just get to the end of one day and not binge eat? Like, that was all I was trying to figure out. And I knew that on the days that I slept well and the days that I ate well and journaled and meditated or moved my body, there were like a few sort of self-care things that when I did them, I knew I was less likely to end up binge eating. And so I felt like there was a gap. Like, I knew this information, but I needed a system to actually make sure it got done. And so I just made a little checklist. Like, I'm talking the most simple checklist that said like movement, sleep, journaling, whatever. And I checked them off. And I realized that was a real missing piece for me, was that I just needed a system for accountability each day to make sure these things happen. And so I started doing this consistently and realizing that just the simple act of checking the boxes on these things actually helped me get to the end of the day and not binge. And it wasn't perfect, but it was incredibly powerful to see how impactful it was just to check this little box. And so what I realized after some time was that I could add to this self-care checklist and add different things to it, and things to switch my mindset, other tools and reminders and things that I just wanted to integrate every single day. Because the more I was reading a lot of personal development books, and you learn so many tools, but then people often read the book and they walk away and there's no system. And I'm not a Virgo, but I think I've got a lot of Virgo tendencies. Like I love to bridge that gap and help people create systems for action and for integration. I think it's so important, because otherwise we're wasting our time just collecting knowledge. And so I started adding things. So I was reading about affirmations and gratitude. So I added that to my self-care checklist. And I'm telling you, I'm like 6 figures in debt in my parents' garage, writing, I am rich. Money flows to me faster than I can keep track of. And I was writing future biographies. Danika Brysha is a best-selling author, or motivate, all these things that were not true at the time, but that I wanted to really integrate and start believing for myself, so that I would show up as that version of myself in the world. And so I started adding to the self-care checklist, and it became a practice I did every single day to change my mindset, to track habits, all of that. And slowly but surely, my life just completely transformed. I mean, it was like I knew all these things, but having the system to integrate them every single day, even if it was just 30 seconds a day, it was incredible how powerful it was. And so the self-care checklist evolved over years, and people watched my life transform, because they were kind of following my journey on social media. They watched me move out of my parents' garage. They watched my businesses grow. They watched me go on tour. And there was such an ask for people to learn how to make their own self-care checklist, and to make these transformations and to go after what lit them up in life. And so I just started sharing that. And that's kind of how I guess sort of fell into the self-care space, was just sharing the tool that I was using that really helped me. And it's really cool. And that's why we took that self-care checklist and then created Self-Care Society as sort of the next level of helping people integrate this, but amidst community and like-minded people. So
I love that so much, Danika. I'm like a Leo/Virgo. So my birthday is August 23rd. So sometimes I'm a Leo, sometimes I'm a Virgo. I read both horoscopes just because I feel like I'm
awesome.
both sometimes, right? But yeah, I totally feel what you're saying. And the women listening to the show will, because they know I geek out on habits and having a system and having you take action in regards to your self-care. Because the same, when I was going through my own transformation, I was listening to personal development and reading books and listening to podcasts. And I was like, well, this is great to listen to, but if I'm not taking action, then what is the point? So I love that you have systems in place. And, I geeked out on habits so much. I got a certification as a behavior change specialist, which means I geek out on habit strategy, and I help my clients do that now too. But I know you've talked about this before, and this is something I implement in our coaching strategies with the Self-Transform brand, is micro habits. So some tiny little things, like you mentioned, you're not doing like mind-blowing, like hour-long, like meditative type of things that take up a big chunk of your day. It's these small little micro habits that kind of snowball into like some massive transformation over time. Can you talk about that a little bit more, just micro habits and how that can have massive transformation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was something that I learned through working with people, and obviously through my own experience was,
hey girl, jumping in on this conversation really quick to make sure you know that my signature program, Self-Transform You, is open for enrollment. This is my signature 6-week coaching program that is going to give you a realistic and simple, keyword simple, health and fitness plan that you will actually stick with forever. This is backed by proven habit strategies, gang, in order to help you transform from the inside out and really redefine self-care through simple fitness, nutrition, and mindset habits, so you can start being confident, empowered, and just lit up and living the life you were meant to live. So trust me, I know what it feels like to feel like you don't have any time to get healthy and fit, and you feel self-conscious in your own skin, yet you find yourself on the newest diet again, only to fail, feel frustrated, and gain all the way back. So I remember wanting to find a food, freedom, and fitness plan that would actually fit into my busy life without it feeling like another thing on my to-do list. So if you have ever found yourself saying, I feel like I'm always starting and stopping a new diet. I wish I could stop obsessing over food and the scale. I wish I liked working out. I wish I could find the time and do this guilt-free. Then Self-Transform You is going to help transform your life. So go to selftransformu, the letter U.com to enroll in this 6-week program now. I will be there for you as your coach, your mentor, and your friend. I've seen it transform my own client's life, and I know it can transform yours too, friend. So again, go to selftransformu.com, and I'll see you in STU.
When we overcommit, we just set ourselves up for shame. And like lasting change doesn't come through shame. It comes through empowerment. This is something I always share. And it's the reason I can reverse it back to diet culture, right? And I can reverse it back to all the times that I tried Atkins and Weight Watchers and all of these things. And every time I tried those programs, I went into it from a mindset and a belief system of I am not good enough as I am. I need to change. It came from like a self-hate. It came from a shame. When I went into Whole30 in 2014, it was the first time I went into something with the perspective of I deserve, like I deserve and I am worth it to live the best possible life for me. It came from self-love. And I think it's the reason that it stuck, right? And also because I think Whole30 makes it very easy to be part of your routine. You know, that's why I'm a big believer in it as well. And kind of, anyway, but I think that it's the same thing with micro habits is you have to set yourself up for success. And so micro habits for me sort of came from this process I used to do and still do sometimes of monthly challenges. And a monthly challenge is something every month I would commit to one new habit because I like to try habits on like I try clothes on, right? It's like, oh, I saw that, you know, I see people talking about meditation. I would love to try that. So I'm going to commit to meditate every day, 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes every day for the month of September. And I would do that. And at the end of the day, at the end of the month, I would determine, okay, did this serve me? Did it not? If it served me, I would put it on my self-care checklist and it would then be a habit that I did consistently. And if not, I kind of let it go. And what I realized was in the beginning, I think I was committing to like multiple things and long periods of time. And I just realized that that's not how you do it. You commit to the smallest amount, like 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And then when you do 10 minutes or 15 minutes or an hour, you feel like a star. You feel like, oh, I did a great job. And when we do a great job at something, we want to keep doing it, right? We want to continue doing it. When you show up and it's the reason that people, when you're good at something, you come back, you want to get better. You want to show up, you want to participate, and vice versa. If you try something over and over and over and you keep failing and it feels icky, you don't want to go back to it. And so micro habits, I think, set us up for success. And I think when we set ourselves up for success, we are more likely to stick to the habit. So the reality is so many people go into habit change and they think, you know, I really want to change this habit. This is really important to me. And so they think that if they don't create a big commitment, it's not going to be the desired effect. But actually what's going to happen is if your commitment is too big, you're going to fall off the wagon much sooner. And you're going to have way less of an impact as if you were to commit to something really small and make these small changes every day. Because there are going to be days when you just have time for 1 minute of meditation. And if you allow yourself and you've given yourself permission that 1 minute of meditation still counts and it still matters, then you're going to go on to it the next day. And then maybe the next day you're more rested and more energized and you do 15 minutes and you're back on track, but you never fell off. And so it just takes away, I think, the black and white thinking that can be so natural to habit change and really anything.
Right. Like you're giving yourself grace. Like you're like, I did it. It didn't have to be like big. It was this small, tiny little thing. I love that so much. And like you said, you're making a commitment to yourself, but you're having grace around it when it doesn't go as planned as well. I love that so much. Let's talk a little bit about Self-Care Society. You've mentioned it a couple of times, and I love the mission behind it as far as integrating systems and taking action. So what would one expect as a member of Self-Care Society as far as classes available and what subject matters in regards to self-care that you guys are chatting about?
Yeah. So I I think I've been a little inspired by like the Peloton model. So no, you don't have to have Peloton to understand this, but the Peloton model are really a lot of fitness program models. They're doing live classes. And I think that I've seen, at least in my own journey, that when a class is live and I have to be something like, even if I sign up for a course, right? they might have the recordings available, but I know that I'm just so much more likely to do that course, to stay on track, and to utilize my investment if I show up live. And so we started with just live classes, no recordings. And what we offer essentially with Self-Care Society is classes, community, and tools. So it's a private membership community where you can take live classes. We have a lot of different guides, and we call them guides, not teachers, because they're really just the whole foundation of Self-Care Society is that we help guide people back to themselves. We believe that you are your own greatest source of wisdom, but sometimes we're not asking ourselves the right questions, or not even that. Sometimes we're just not carving out the space to listen in. So it's not about learning more, right? We have so many beautiful sources of knowledge and education. It's about holding the space to go into what you already know that's just within you. And so it's like you would have a fitness membership. Is you're going to show up and we have classes Monday through Friday, live classes, multiple classes a day. We have an amazing on-demand library. And, classes range from all different sorts of subjects, from like self-confidence to like, I teach 3 classes a week. I teach mindful motivation on Mondays, and that's really meant to get you ready for a new week and to spark, sort of like dump out your brain, get intentional how you want to show up, look at habits and all that sort of stuff. I teach unwind and release Wednesday evenings, which is really about like helping your central nervous system calm down, releasing the stresses, finding ease. And then I teach reflect and realign on Friday mornings. And that's really an opportunity to reflect on our week and use that, our experiences, and move forward more intentionally and realign with how we want to show up in the world, because it's easy to fall off track. Like there's so much going on in the world. And so those are just my classes. Again, we have different guides, and then we have private community. We have circles, which kind of are like Facebook groups for different subjects, like, recovering from disordered eating, or small business owners, or, different locations, all that. And yeah, we have communities. People can connect in community. You have profiles that show like your future biography and your affirmations and all that sort of stuff. So it's really a special space. I didn't see anything like it out there. I felt like it really needed to exist. There's a lot of meditation apps and there's a lot of fitness apps, but there wasn't something that really helped people integrate habit change and mindset on a daily basis and a consistent basis. And I know for a fact that's how you make it actually work in your life. And so that's what we wanted to create.
I love it so much. And I feel like it comes from a place where someone isn't overwhelmed when they take a class through Self-Care Society. Like you said, it's just that inner work they're doing. It doesn't feel like it has to be something extra. It's just something that they eventually implement into their life through habit change. And it just becomes an unconscious behavior that just helps them feel lit up, right? Like from the inside out.
Yeah. And our classes are only 30 minutes long. We do that intentionally because there's plenty going on, and that we don't
right.
have hours to commit everywhere. But another sort of foundational thing is that there's no homework. Like you show up, you do the work, and then you're good. Like you get to walk away and take that with you. And I think that's really important as well, because at least for me, I know in the culture we're in right now, there's always more to-dos. There's always things undone. There's always someone waiting on something, and it can feel really heavy. And so we really wanted to escape that and help people realize that you showed up, and when this class ends, like you're good, you got it, you did it. And if you want to come back tomorrow, great. But not carrying with them more to-dos and feeling like it's another thing to add to the list.
Yeah. Yeah. We have enough to-dos. Like we have enough for sure. For sure. Well, Danika, I originally found you a few years ago through the Whole30, being a Whole30 certified coach myself as well. And also that was the start to my own self-transformation back in 2015. And it's just kind of the same thing. Like I was like, man, this was so much more about food. It was about my habits and relationship around food, and my habits around stress and anxiety. And, oh, I feel good moving my body, and, oh, doing mindset work. And, oh, I've created my own self-care routine just from, this few months of a transformation, starting with the Whole30. So we're interviewing in the month of September. This is going to be airing near the end of September. What would you tell the folks doing a September Whole30 right now? They are coming near day 30. What encouraging words would you give them finishing out this round?
Yeah, that it's only the beginning. And I mean that in a really optimistic way, because they're probably like, what do you mean? I'm like almost done. What I mean by that is the Whole30 is going to kickstart and ignite something within you, whether this is your first time or your 10th time. For me, it's just a gateway to more, and it's the foundation. Like, it's clearing the vessel. It's establishing a strong, solid foundation for whatever comes next. It is wiping out. I always say it's like you take Drano and dump it in your brain, and Whole30 clarifies things. So this is like your golden hour. And like, I hope you can celebrate that you've gotten this far. I mean, that's incredible. It's a huge accomplishment. And even if you're listening to this and you didn't get this far, I want you to know that you learned. Like, you can't unlearn what you learn with the Whole30. And I think that's big. And even if you do it for a week, it's really hard to unlearn how to read a nutrition label. Mm-hmm. And I don't even mean nutrition labels as much as I mean like an ingredient list. Mm-hmm. There's such an education through the process that no matter how well you did, or if you fell off, you're still taking so much away. But for those of you who have made it this far, huge congrats. And just know that this energetic state you're in right now, like, really write it down. Document how you feel right now. Film a video of yourself right now and talk about why you did this and what you're experiencing, because it's very easy to slip away from and to forget how good we can feel if we get back into our normal. And that's fine. I mean, I had so many, it's always like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I had that for many, many years. It took me quite some time to find my food freedom and to be in a place where now, like, I have no need to do Whole30s. I eat that way for the most part. I also eat things that, treats and things. Like, I just have this really beautiful relationship with food. And I think Whole30 was one of the things that really got me there. And that's not going to be the case for everyone, right? But for me, that was the case. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. And so congrats. Honor this, document how you feel, so that when you're on other days, when you're experiencing what I call the contrast, which is when you don't feel so great, you have a reminder of why. You have a reminder of why you put that effort in. And just know that your brain right now and your body is functioning probably in a way that it hasn't potentially ever in your life. So take advantage of that and see where it guides you to. Because for me, I did that Whole30 in January of 2014, which led me into just how I felt so empowered that I could change my life so dramatically in 30 days that's where I started my monthly challenge habits, because I was so inspired by Whole30. So it was like, okay, I'm going to journal every day for the month of February, and I'm going to eat Whole30 a little bit, continue this because I feel really great. And I'm going to stay sober because I feel really great. And it just sort of added on. It was like building this beautiful building, like layer on layer on layer. So hope that helps.
Yes, I have my hands in the air because I feel the exact same way. Like you said, like clearing your vessel. And there's so many new habits I personally have learned from the Whole30, and that I've noticed my clients have learned, especially like ingredient lists, reading that and being like, I don't know if that's the best choice for me. But also, you used the word how empowered you felt. That was like the biggest aha moment for me. Was the first time I finished my Whole30 was in September of 2015. I was like, I actually finished something for 30 days. Like, I can't tell you how many times I started and stopped something. And like you said, that momentum just it just rocketed me to a whole new level and a life. And it not only changed my life, but my family's life as well. And same, I haven't done a Whole30 in probably over 2 years now because I'm living my food freedom. And it feels great. Totally.
And that's the goal. Like, that's exactly. The goal of the Whole30 is to get you to that point. Mm-hmm. And I think why so many of us feel so passionate about it, because I never thought I'd be at this point, to be honest. Right. I didn't think I could eat like cookies or, other stuff mindfully. And it's just incredible. And when I eat that stuff, do I feel it and notice it? Yeah, I usually notice it. Sometimes it's worth it. A lot of times it's not worth it. It's like you're always going to be learning. But I never thought I would have the relationship with food and my body that I have today. And I think I owe a lot of that to Whole30. So yeah. I will always be passionate about it. We're doing a Whole30 group, actually a big pre-holiday Whole30 group starting early mid-October, and it's my pre-holiday, and it leads you through right before Thanksgiving. And I'm so excited.
I love that so much.
Group in a long time.
That's a really great way to transition into that holiday season, because your habits and relationship with food are kind of on a really high level at that point. So then you go into that time, we did like I said, we did our first Whole30 in September 2015, and my husband did another one like probably a month after that, because we did not do the reintroduction. We did it wrong, like a lot of people do the first time. No one. Yeah, no, I think every Whole30 coach I've talked to, they're like, yeah, I didn't do my reintroduction the first time. But yeah, he went into it before the holiday season, and just like he went into the holiday season, like, I have no guilt or shame around eating any of these foods that are special to me because like my grandma made these cookies or whatnot. So that mindset shift and losing the guilt and shame, amazing.
100%. I'm so excited. And nowadays more than ever, right? Our health, oh my gosh, it's just, I'm so passionate about our food system, and I know it's complicated and it's not so simplified of just eat this and that, there's a lot of access issues and all that, but at the end of the day, and I think it's one of the reasons I've gotten so into organic gardening is like, you learn that there's like the earth has so many gifts for us and nature has so many gifts for us. And I think Whole30 really helps us get back to simplifying things. And I think that simplification across the board is incredibly important as our world gets more complicated and layered and detailed and busy. And, nowadays we're speaking to the world instead of our local communities because of things like social media. Mm-hmm. And I think that we are going to make a shift that's more community driven, more simple, more ease. I think our generation is wanting less, like they don't want the big houses, and that it's like, it's just things have gotten so complicated and detailed, and people are feeling overwhelmed. And I think that the simplification is key. And I think that Whole30 helps with that. They keep food simple, and bring us back to just real food, like real simple food.
Yeah. Well, and I can tell with everything that you're doing, Danika, you're making it simplified for people. You're not taking up a lot of brain space for people and allowing them to really just tune into themselves, taking care of themselves from the inside out with all the things that you are doing. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And where can everyone connect with you? They can find out more about your pre-holiday Whole30 group. How fun.
Yes. So I'm on Instagram at Danika Brysha. So just my name, that's probably where I show up the most. And then it's from there, you can find my websites, but it's modelmeals.com, which we will be national. If we're not already by the time this launches, very, very soon, we'll have
so exciting. Service. I can get some model meals here in Indy, girl. Let's go.
I got to get you some. So as soon as that launches, and then for the pre-holiday Whole30 and Self-Care Society, it's done through Self-Care Society. So you can just search Self-Care Society or go to myselfcaresociety.com or just click a link on my Instagram bio, or we're at, on Instagram, it's at Model Meals and at Self-Care Society. So really quite simple.
Awesome. Well, Danika, thank you so much again. I know the women listening today are going to have a lot of takeaways.
Thank you for having me.
Danika, thank you so much for this conversation. As I mentioned, such an honor to have you on the show, and thank you for being such a mentor to me, whether you realize it or not. You are inspiring a lot of women in regards to taking care of themselves, and for me, how to serve others and help others view that self-care is not selfish, that it is vital, and that it can be a very, very beautiful part of your story. So gang, let's talk about my 3 biggest takeaways from this conversation with Danika Brysha. So number 1, you have to have some type of system. So tools, integration of self-care into your life. Like we mentioned, it's great to listen to a podcast like Self Transformed. It's great to follow someone like Danika on social media and feel inspired. But if you don't take action, then what is the point? Danika brought up her self-care checklist and how those were simple little micro habits that she accomplished little by little, day by day, cultivating her own self-care checklist, mainly for her own accountability, but also it was these micro habits that gave you small little wins to help you feel successful and to help you continue on cultivating your self-care checklist, cultivating your own transformation to help you feel lit up from the inside out. Number 2, I think this is a vital part of transformation or beginning some type of new habit change in your life. You need to come from a place of self-love and of grace, and setting yourself up for success versus shame or having just a all or nothing mentality. It feels so much better when you're coming from a place of knowing your why, for why you're incorporating this new habit change, whether it would be meditation or movement or journaling for that matter, and why it is beneficial to you alone, personally, to you, and how that can help you in regards to your own self-care and your own transformation, not just now, but when life gets hard. Right? Versus if you come from a place of shame and that all or nothing mentality, like we talked about, even if you're able just to get in a little bit of your self-care routine during the day, you did it out of love for yourself, pat yourself on the back, way to go. You did great with what you had handed to you today, right? Because not every day is the same and not every season of your life is the same. That's why we create these anchored self-care habits that we've talked about on the show numerous times to help you when life does get hard, that you have these unconscious behaviors that don't feel hard, but they're coming from a place of self-love versus shame, versus doing something out of, loathing yourself or loathing your body. You're coming from a place of self-love and knowing that you're doing these things for yourself to help you feel your best from the inside out. And then number 3, this has to deal with the Whole30, which I think is super important. Is I love how Danika mentioned the Whole30 gives you a chance to have a clean vessel, not just physically, but also mentally. Okay, you're cleaning out your body of the brain fog. When we're eating a lot of processed foods and sugar and not treating our body the best way in the way that we're eating, we aren't operating at our highest level, allowing transformation to happen. We're not feeling so great. Like I said, I just came off a week at Cancun. I had thoroughly enjoyed myself, but I'm not feeling my best day by day, because I was having sugary drinks. I was having dessert every day, ice cream, because I was like, this is worth it to me during that experience. And now I'm like, okay, I'm back to my normal life. I have no guilt or shame around that. Like we just talked about, came from a place of self-love in the experience, and it was worth it to me. But the way Whole30 works, it gives you that clean vessel physically from there, but also mentally as well. That empowerment that you feel after finishing something very challenging. And you just can't unlearn what you learn on the Whole30, like she said. Bonus tip that she mentioned, which I think is beautiful, and this can be applied not only towards your Whole30 if you're doing one, but anything you're doing in your life. When you feel that feeling of accomplishment, when you finish something, when you are operating at your highest level, journal, write down what that feels like. Even better, like Danika mentioned, take a video of yourself, record yourself. I know sometimes that may feel awkward. Trust me, I'm in front of a microphone all the time and on video, and sometimes it's awkward, but I just learn to live with it. But this is just for you, talking to yourself about how you feel, how you got to that point, and why you feel that way. And just as a reminder for yourself, because there's going to be times where you're just going to be up, it's going to be down, or living in that contrast, like Danika mentioned, and that's okay. It's great to have a reminder of how you felt, but even more importantly, how you felt coming from you, coming straight from you versus someone else. It's super duper duper powerful. So I love that bonus tip, and you can apply that towards anything. So Danika, again, thank you so much for this conversation. I really feel like you are able to simplify self-care in such a graceful way to make it others feel that is not selfish, that is something so necessary in our life, and having the tools and the systems in place to help you take action is what is taking it to the next level. And I just want to end on, like Danika mentioned, what she does through the Self-Care Society and just her brand in general is to help guide others back to themselves. And I really felt that in my soul when she said that, because I felt like when I began my own transformation back in 2015, I kind of found my way back to myself. You know that feeling. And if you don't know that feeling, come hang with us over in our Facebook group or get on a habit hacking call with me. Try out the Whole30 Anytime course. I'm providing you a lot of really great tools to be able to help guide you to find yourself as well, depending on what point in your life you're at and what needs you have right now in regards to your own self-care. So if you want to connect with Danika, you can find her on Instagram at Danika Brysha. She's getting ready to host a Whole30 group through the Self-Care Society as well. If that's something you're interested in doing, a pre-holiday Whole30. That's super, super exciting. And again, Danika, thank you so much for coming on my show. Such an honor. Keep doing what you're doing. You're inspiring me and a lot of other folks around the world, really, as in regards to making self-care such a beautiful thing to have in our lives. So gang, thank you so much for listening today. Make sure to give Danika a follow. Let us know your biggest takeaways from the show, and I will catch up with you all later this week. Hey girl, real quick before you go, if you love today's show and know your girlfriends need to hear this message too, then grab a screenshot, post it to your Instagram stories, and tag me at EmilyNichols22, because the more mamas out there hearing this message, the more empowered we'll all feel to take care of ourselves so we can pour from a full cup. Or the number one way you can thank me for this podcast is to leave a rating and review in iTunes. That way, more mamas will find the show here too. Love you and appreciate you, girlfriends. See you next time.